Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Question. Have you ever felt something, maybe got a sign, maybe got feeling, intuition, and you try to dissect it, figure it out, even interpret what you're getting and wonder, is this something legit? Like should I pay attention to it, or is this just I'm reading into it and I really shouldn't read into it? How do you know the difference between all of this? Well, you don't ask me. You ask somebody who knows. She is an intuitive medium, has the ability to make connections for you. And I always love to share that she's also a licensed therapist. So there's a lot going on there. An intuitive medium, that's great. Therapist, that's great. When you put them together, I feel it's a powerful combination. And Noelle Deane, who joins us once again here today. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Steve?
Doing well. Doing well. This is what we're going to talk about today is something that I don't want to say I wrestle with, I deal with, and I'm more aware of it than I ever was. Let's just say that in terms of these things, the signs, and we've skimmed it before, but it seems like we're diving down the intuitive sign rabbit hole today. Would you say?
I agree. I think it's worth doing that. And the somewhat self-doubt, or maybe you have a lower level of self-doubt these days because you've gotten so many signs, because you've really proven to yourself that your mom comes to you. It's irrefutable to you. But then how we relate to other people, we might feel nervous about sharing things with people. Nobody wants to be seen as like the wackadoodle friend or the weirdo or the freak, as the term came up last week. But, not everybody's paying attention to signs. Not everybody's seeing like the synchronicities of things, which we've had even while we're recording this show in the past. Things
Hmm.
just pop up and we're both like, okay,
Yeah.
that was close to home kind of thing. But synchronicities are meant, as I'm trying to, solidify it more in my own mind. Synchronicities, from what I'm gathering, are like just little signs like, hey, you're on the right track because we're all connecting. This is connecting with that. This is connecting with that person. But that rich, like the early self doubt that we all have to work through when we start picking up on things. And how you said it was lovely. Like you're becoming more and more aware of the stuff you pick up on, but you might have been doing this for the last, 40 years. Now you're actually paying attention in a different kind of way. And even more of it shows up because now you're just noticing more and more. Um, what do you think about that, Steve?
It took a life-changing situation for me to reframe me. And that's where I started picking up on it. So I've always been, well, I don't want to say always, but for the past almost 30 years, almost, connected to those in the psychic world, like legit. People that have this ability, I don't know how they know how to do it. I used to have them on a radio show and I would witness it because there's no way it could have been set up. And there's a thing that goes out, people say, yes, skeptics of psychics will say, oh, it's a cold read. They're cold reading them, meaning they're looking for facial cues and things like that. This was all radio. I just answer the phone randomly. You can't see anybody's face. And there would have been connections being made. So I believed in the connections, but I never really knew how it happened. And I just kind of just leaned back and just did my thing, and it was all great until fast forward years later, call it in the last four, that I started paying attention to signs. And then after I asked for them, that's the important part. I never asked for them. When I asked for them, I would get them very specific, very specific. And I can't deny what they are because they're so specific. I'm not looking for them. I'm not looking to read into something. I'm not trying to make something out of nothing. It was just it's there. I'm fact based. That's it. Facts don't lie. If you get a sign and it's very specific information there that just you can't deny it, I got nothing. I can't deny it. That's it. You got me. Um, I'll bet there's so many more that I'm not even aware of, that I'm not even seeing. And I believe that's true for all of us. I really do. Because you just, but you need to ask. You need to ask. Who do you ask? Well, I guess that's your question for you.
Well, it seems like when you've spoken about your mom, you've asked her for specific signs and you get them. I mean, you could just kind of put it out there to the universe when things come in, and it might not be a distinguishable person that you feel like those signs are coming from. And, our intention, who we think of when we're asking for things, has energy and weight when we
Hmm.
have an intention like that. So that's part of it also. But sometimes we're just putting it out there. Like when I am connecting for myself, I will say, I'll start asking, I'm trying to ask better questions these days. Hey, is there somebody here? Implying people that I'm comfortable having around me who are in spirit. I set a lot of boundaries. I set intentions to have things only for my highest good or highest good of the people that I'm meeting with. And then hey, is there anyone here that can help me with this decision? I mean, it's
Hmm.
stuff, it might be like
Hmm.
business stuff and
Hmm.
whatever it is. And usually I get a yes, and then I'll ask the question. And I feel like also people like my mother-in-law has and my grandmother have looked to like kind of link me up with other people in spirit, not necessarily somebody in my family to help me.
I never thought of that. Just ask. I'm specific. I'll throw it out to my mom. I've come maybe a couple of times. I asked my dad, but I haven't asked. I'm not. I don't feel like I'm in tune like I am with her. Um, I feel that many of us need the direction. Like where we get in the car, GPS tells you where to go. How do we do this? Like business. Let's go there. I think that's a great example. This idea that I have, is it going to take off? Should I put a lot of effort into it? And is it just, those are the questions I'm asking of you, universe, spirit guides, whoever's around me. Please deliver a message or some insight. Is it as simple as that?
Mm. I mean, it can be, even though that's not going to give you all the details of, well, how do I proceed with this? But if you're putting it out into the universe, is it for your highest good or the highest good of all for you to create this business or move forward with this business idea? That's a really specific question. I've really trained myself and others to ask of the universe yes and no questions because we energy test to get an answer to
Hmm.
those questions. Now, there might be times when you ask a simple yes and no, yes or no question, and you get your yes, which is you feel lighter, or you get your no, which is you feel heavier. And you might also get like a song in your head, especially you, because you connect a lot with music and people connect with you that way. More information can certainly come, but it's a great place to start. If you're not feeling very adept at picking up on more messages, just stick with yes or no questions and put yourself in a place where you're not really distracted and start asking those yes and no questions. So if you had quiet time, Steve, you could just say, hey, mom, can you connect with me with somebody who can answer these questions for me? Or, my spiritual team, can somebody please give me some insight into this? Can you do that right now? It's a yes or no question.
Hmm.
Actually, that was a two-parter. Can you answer these questions and can we do this right now? And
Gotcha.
before I got words and a lot of songs, that was what I used. And I used that for years to connect for myself. And it was helpful. I mean, it can feel a little tedious. You just keep asking. But you know what? If you're connecting with your grandmother, which was my top person to connect with, or your spiritual guides, you're actually getting somewhere. You will get somewhere.
When you receive the answer or an answer, is it coming from who you asked it of, or is it just coming from the universe? And what's the universe? It's your spirit guides. It's everything going on around you. What's going on there?
Some people would say that that's you just asking your higher self, or that it's you asking your soul. It's a big question, and I think it's different whenever you're asking it. If I'm asking what I'm supposed to have for dinner, Or is it like I had a meeting, I have two meetings later on today. So I checked in. Am I supposed to still have this meeting with this person? I got a yes. Am I still supposed to have this meeting with this person? And I got a no. I don't know who I'm asking. And I don't, man, I wish I was more like curious about stuff. I don't really care. I just am clear that I'm getting the right answer because I could feel it in my body, aside from that I felt the no. And I just want to remind people that on my website, connecting with Noelle, Noelle.com, I have two free video series. One is using yourself as a pendulum to get these kind of answers, and the other is about empath self-care. And I would highly encourage anybody to use both. It's also on my YouTube channel, but I encourage people to use it so you can get your own answers and you can have a sense of confidence about it. You can let go of some of that self-doubt.
Hmm. And there is a reason for the what am I having for dinner? Because I've heard this that's a great way just to test, your gut, your intuition. What am I feeling for dinner? Italian or Chinese? Italian or Chinese? What feels lighter for you? And start there, so you can begin to interpret what's really inside of you and come up with kind of the baseline. Well, almost like muscle testing, energy testing, what's done with the obvious false answer and a true one, so you can get the baseline there. Um, how do you know the difference between a sign, a download, or your intuition? I know that's a deep question, but when you're getting a feeling, how do you know it's not being provided for you because maybe you asked for it, or it's just your intuition?
Well, I guess in my head, they're kind of the same. I think but I think you might be asking like my own gut instinct impression versus information that's coming in.
Yeah.
I think one of a helpful way to distinguish the two is the information that comes in, if it occurs to you like it's kind of surprising, like, wow, I never would have been thinking about that. Like, I'm asking about this and I get Greek food. Okay. Well, I guess, and then I would double check. So, am I getting this right about Greek food? Oh, yes. And I move forward and backwards for my yes and then for my no. So that would be a great way to understand the difference.
Hmm.
Like if you think I can't connect with my great 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 grandfather, but let me just give it a shot, or somebody else's loved one, and you just put it out there, and just whatever comes in, you write that down. That's your information, and especially when it's surprising or unexpected, that's a beautiful way to humble yourself. Like, okay, well, I guess I am a good receptor of these things or a good conduit for information. But another tip is don't interpret, if you're getting information for somebody else, don't interpret that for them. Give them exactly what you're getting, how you're getting it. Like I will say, oh, well, I'm starting to hear this song, but just this part. Like when we talked recently, you got a song for me. And I was mentioning how my grandfather would bring through Al Jarreau songs, which are kind of very, romantic related songs. A song I'd never heard of by him called Morning came to you. And you were reading the lyrics and you were bringing up like the Golden Gate Bridge. And I was like, well, I'm picturing the George Washington. My grandfather's from New York. But then I actually read the lyrics and it was all about how everything is going to be okay. And even the word mourning, because I'm in mourning right now. My sister,
Hmm.
who I was estranged from for 10 years, passed about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I'm in a whole state of something I'm very unfamiliar with. So that song was very meaningful. An artist that my grandfather would normally bring through the word morning and then the everything's okay. But you wouldn't have picked that up for me because you can't, because the message is for me. So you hand over the messages that you get for people without expectation and as precisely as you get it with all the detail that you can remember. Even when it seems weird, the weirder, the better.
Hmm. Okay.
Seriously, the weirder, the better.
I
It's
gotcha.
unexpected.
And,
Yeah.
and even the mourning part, I didn't pick up on. The skeptics will say, "Ah, you're reading into it. Come on."
Mhm.
Okay, could have been a song by any artist. Jennifer Lopez. I don't know. They don't have a song called Morning. You were in mourning. The song is about the morning. And That was a, I don't know, top 20 hit for him, his only hit. He was more of a jazzy kind of,
Mhm.
you know, classic standards type singer. And it literally just popped in my head. And I had to share it. And I can't name any other song by him. None. Zero. Nothing. Got nothing for you. That was kind of a hit. So that's why I think it was, 1983. That's why I remembered it. I believe there's a reason why I remembered it. And I think we believe in the synchronicities. Nothing happens just because. Um, you brought it up. I fired something back. And I think my gut is telling me that if you look deeper into the Golden Gate Bridge and some of the Cheerios, there's a reference of breakfast cereal in the song. If you ask relatives or sit deeper with it, something's going to come up. I'm not intuitive. I'm not a psychic. I'm just telling you what I'm feeling here. There's a reason. There's something there. The Golden Gate Bridge is screaming. There's is a reason for that. I don't know what, but
And and look, you can say you're not intuitive. You can compare yourself to me and feel unintuitive. I can compare myself to professional mediums that I watch on YouTube and feel like, well, you know, I don't have a flow like they do. I don't provide the same type of information. Everything is relative.
sure.
My experience of you is that you're very intuitive because you are picking up on these things. And if your gut is like it's pounding, you have to look into the Golden Gate Bridge. That's your intuition. You're not trying to shove something down my throat.
I'm
That
not.
doesn't seem like your personality. But I bet if you were at a get together with friends and you just sat there quietly for a couple minutes and you had a little stack of paper and you looked at each person for just a moment and then you asked for some message for them and you wrote it down and you handed it to them and you just let it go like, hey, whatever. But if anything comes of that, if you resonate with what I pick up from you, for you, just let me know so I can learn to trust it more and more with what I'm getting for others now. Because you've proven it to yourself. I mean, that's like for me, I was doing practice readings. I'd be like, oh, this feels so weird. I don't know if I shared this story, but I learned some mediumship years ago, and then after several years of being disengaged, I'm getting big confirmation chills on this. So I'm taking a mediumship class with a woman that I knew. I don't remember how long the class was, but we're having our basically test to graduate from this class. There's like four of us. I'm the first one chosen to pass this test. And I don't think we did practice readings on each other, but suddenly that's the test. And I'm supposed to get a reading for the one person in the class I had a really hard time connecting with. And I'm like, oh, crap, great. And now I'm standing up in front of everybody, and it's not like it's a big class, but I felt super vulnerable and like really scared. And I didn't know what to do. I'm standing there and I'm waiting and waiting, and like, do I cry? Do I leave? Like, do I sit back down? It was just a moment of panic. And I close my eyes and I get this visual of this cat with a cigar and a captain's hat on a boat, and he's walking around. He's got this big belly, like he owns this boat. And there were a few other things that came of that. And I was just like, holy crap, seriously? Like, I'm not going to say that. I felt, you know, lost and still
Hmm.
panicked. And then at one point, I was like, screw it. And I just was, I think I closed my eyes and I said, okay, this is what I see. This fat cat, blah, 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 blah. And I'm standing in front of this woman. And she just looks at me and she kind of blinks and she's like, oh, that was my ex-husband. That
Hmm.
was his personality. He had a boat. He walked around smoking a cigar. So where you think, oh my gosh, I'm like the freak that I'm seeing this kind of thing. It was like it was the right information. I was picking up accurately, but it's scary to say when you first start getting that. But that's how you
So
learn.
I have to share with you.
Please.
I mentioned I don't get things from my father. Don't ask a lot, but I don't get a lot. My parents got divorced when I was very young. Didn't have a very super close relationship with him. However, when me and my sister would see him, we would be on his boat, and the big thing was who got to wear the captain's hat. And he once got us a cat and brought it over. It was a Siamese, named Percival's and kind of fat. And later in life, I realized that I did that for my daughter. I forgot about it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I'm doing this for her. Weirdness, weirdness. Like, why did you tell that story? And I just said, I don't get from my dad. The captain's hat was a big deal. Like, I'm wearing it. No, I want to wear it.
I haven't thought of that story in quite a while. I shared about it when in the book that I wrote, Mediumship Foundations, wanting to
Mm,
encourage other people how it is scary, it's scary to share in that kind of vulnerable way when you're uncertain about. But I was not, as I was preparing mentally to have this conversation with you, I wasn't thinking at all of that story. It just felt right to share because it popped into my head. So just like you say, things drop in, it's the same with me. And when I say I'm reminded of instead of, oh yeah, I'm just randomly thinking about because,
I
everything really does happen. It's
it
not,
might have resonated with me, but even more so because I literally just said I don't ask, to get signs from my father, and you in some way delivered one like that, at less than 15 minutes or 12 minutes later, in a random story.
well, we're in sync. We're in sync. We're doing the thing we're supposed to be doing together. We're being in the flow together. Stuff comes in. You pick
Hmm.
up on stuff from me too. I mean, that's like the beauty of it. I'm not any different from you. I've just spent a lot more time focused on these things, but we're both very intuitive people, as are most people. And if you're feeling like you're not intuitive, maybe you're blocking it. Maybe you have a belief system that tells you to block that.
I agree.
Like one of the things that I feel has come up, I have people in my family that are very religious, and we're new to knowing each other. And there's a part of me that has had to work on not feeling like I should be ashamed or feel weirded out or
Mm.
I'm going to creep people out by the work that I do as a medium, even though I know, some of these same beautiful people do not at all believe in what I do, and I'm sure don't like that I do it.
Yep.
But it's easy to have this judgment of like religion is way more legitimate than what I do or than intuition. But then I'm aware of how much healing can come from a mediumship session for people, how much healing I've gotten from my own mediumship or sessions I've gotten. I don't believe that concept at all. I don't believe religion is more like morally superior or more legitimate. We all believe what we believe, and we're all willing sometimes to like die on that hill. I am for what I believe in. But the shame that we can feel about not being a part of organized religion,
Sure.
or, well, it's kind of airy fairy because there is no book that we think of as this is the Bible, to use the phrase, not the actual Bible, like a Bible for spiritual people. It's a very eclectic thing. We
Hmm.
learn about different things. Some things resonate, some don't. I just want to encourage everybody that there's nothing illegitimate about your intuition, your ability to connect with loved ones. We're taught that we're not supposed to do that. That is just a perspective, and it doesn't have to be yours.
I 1000% agree. And even my view of religion has changed in the last few years. Um, But just a change, it's and not in a bad way, and it's still an ebb and flow. My beliefs, get a little bit different here and there. My approach a little bit different. But I agree with you. Your intuition, what you're getting, you were born with that beauty. You're a beacon. You were born with that. You're the lighthouse. You're sending it out, and you're receiving it in. Embrace it. It's there for a reason. It's why we exist. If we didn't have intuition, back in cave times, we wouldn't pick up on the fact that, a leopard was coming our way. They knew. How did they know? I have to believe some of it was intuition, some of it was skill, but it was also intuition involved. And that's got us here.
Yeah.
Now we're out of time.
Oh. Well, everybody take away, you are a lighthouse, in the words of Steve Harper. And I love that. I could feel the resonance of that within myself. You are a lighthouse. All of you are.
Yeah.
And if you're not connecting with your intuition, start now.
Yeah.
It's never
You got
too
it.
late.
You got it. I got
You
it.
do.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. I didn't know that I had a little bit more than I thought. I asked for signs and I
Yeah.
interpret them. And think about all the decisions that you made. I go back decades, 30 years more, and all the times I ignored my intuition, I was dreadfully wrong. I knew it. But then the logic, for another podcast. How do we connect with you, Noelle? If somebody's looking for a connection, even just wants to share a thought, pick your brain on stuff, how do we do that?
You can reach out to my website. There's a request for services. If you want to consult, you can reach out to me. If you have a question, you can reach out to me that way. Also, it's connectingwithnoelle.com. It's Noelle. You can email me, connectingwithnoelle@gmail.com. And if I can help you learn how to get more in touch with your own intuition, or for classes, individual coaching, where we're getting information from your team, your spiritual team, to help you, or you just want to try to speak with one of your loved ones to help you get back on track, to be more in tune with yourself, please reach out to me or to anybody else that you already know and trust. But, it makes life way more beautiful and magical to be in touch.
I was going to just say, and not as a cliche, it's a beautiful thing. I'm not even kidding. I was just going to say, what we have is all of us. It's a beautiful thing. Embrace it. Wow. Like, vibing. That's weird.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for today. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Okay.
Coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.